My name is Máirtín Mac Con Iomaire. I'm a lecturer in culinary arts and gastronomy in the Technological University Dublin. My chapter in this 100th edition of Reimagining Ireland series, edited by Eamon Maher and Eugene O'Brien, is titled Applying the Food Studies Perspective to Irish Studies. Now, food studies and Irish studies both emerged from the same area studies post-World War II phenomena, and they share many similarities in their journeys from the margins to becoming sort of established academic disciplines. Now, a common feature of a new academic studies movement, whether French, gender, post-colonial, cinematic, African, Irish, or food, is their interdisciplinarity and the transdisciplinary nature. So in effect, they become more than any one discipline. And scholars within these new fields continuously investigate, from various angles, often adopting a self-reflexivity as an approach. So stereotypical post-colonial notions of the drunken or stage Irishman, or food's association with the quotidian domestic and therefore feminine, led some academics up until relatively recently to sort of dismiss either Irish studies or food studies as not worthy of any formal academic serious study. However, with the advent of the cultural turn in the 1970s, whether you were interested in medicine, literature, poverty, religion, each could be studied applying either an Irish or a food lens. Moreover, recent research has argued that a food studies lens could be insightful to the field of Irish studies, and that a gastro-critical reading of canonical writers such as Seamus Heaney or Mariah Edgeworth might prove revelatory. Whether Irish studies or food studies, there are certain elements that are required to establish an academic discipline. So first come the trailblazers, who clear the ground, often unaware of the influence their labours are going to have in the future field. Then come the seminal texts, which enrich the ground, upon which the seeds for modules or courses can be sown. With time and a number of successful harvests, graduates, you could say, come the encyclopedias, the companions, the festschrifts, which attempt to codify the discipline. The conferences or symposia may be conceptualised as hiring fairs or agricultural shows, where ideas and best practices are disseminated, debated, and networks are built. So my chapter in this 100th edition of the series compares the journey that both Irish studies and food studies, becoming established disciplines, discussing the key figures, journals, courses, conferences, and encyclopedias associated with both. Now, one, early crossover of between the two disciplines would be an exploration of food-related place names in Ireland, published in the Canadian Journal of Irish Studies in 2014, which melded gastrotopography with Din Seanachas and Brian Friel's sort of translations, the staging of which was the origin of Field Day back in 1980. Now, two terms are used interchangeably within my chapter, and they are sort of gastronomy and food studies. So the former being more of a European concept, which sort of encapsulates and incorporates food history, while the latter stems from the United States and is firmly influenced by the area studies phenomenon. Now, both terms were employed when the MA in Gastronomy and Food Studies, the first postgraduate master's programme in Ireland concerning with food in its broader socio-cultural and historical context, were developed in the Dublin Institute of Technology in 2017. So gastronomy moved into the postgraduate realm in Ireland as a module on the MSc in culinary innovation and new product development in the Dublin Institute of Technology in 2017, and with the graduation of the first PhD in food history in Ireland in 2009. 2007 was the MSc in innovation and culinary innovation. Other doctoral candidates have since successfully completed their food-themed, Irish-themed food studies-related dissertations, both here in Ireland and abroad, both in places like France and in Poland and further afield. So some of these subjects range from wine and beverage studies, Irish foodies, the impact of Italian foodways on Irish food habits, Irish culinary manuscripts, Guinness advertising, Irish diplomatic dining, the meaning of food and foodways in Ireland from 1922 to 1973, gender inequality in professional kitchens, Irish food tourism policy, and most recently then the social meaning of claret amongst Georgian Ireland's elite. Now, a key event bringing gastronomy and food studies into the mainstream in Ireland was the establishment of the inaugural biennial Dublin Gastronomy Symposium, the DGS, in May 2012. And this was a collaborative project between the Dublin Institute of Technology and the Institute of Technology Tallaght. And again, both institutes have now come together, and we're part of Technological University Dublin, along with Blanchardstown. So the role of the DGS has been highlighted previously by Brian Murphy in his chapter within this volume on beverage studies, and indeed in his video outlining his chapter within the volume. Now, when Liam Hart and Yvonne Whelan mapped Irish studies in the 21st century in their 2007 publication, Ireland Beyond Boundaries, they included chapters on intellectual criticism, historiography, religion, gender, media, geography, music, sports, and Irish culture. But no mention was made of food. Now, in 2014, this lacuna began to be filled with the publication of Tickling the Palate, Gastronomy in Irish Literature and Culture, which was volume 57 of the Reimagining Irish series, which we're celebrating in this publication. So further food-related chapters appeared in a number of other edited volumes within the series, and also in volumes 9 and 14 of the Studies in Franco-Irish Relations series, which is also published by Peter Lang. Now, a notable sign of food history's acceptance, I suppose, in Ireland was the proceedings of the Royal Irish Academy, Section C. You know, they had a special series on sort of food and drink in Ireland. And again, that was, I suppose, a landmark publication showing the acceptance of food studies and of food history, particularly within the Academy. And again, later, following on from that, the special edition of the food issue of the Canadian Journal of Irish Studies in 2018 further championed the importance of food in Irish scholarship, bringing it towards the mainstream. Now, in 2018, there was the Rutledge Companion to Literature and Food, which married aspects of the two disciplines, and Ireland was suitably represented. And a further omen of the gradual awareness of an appreciation of food studies within Irish studies arena is the Field Day podcast number 31, recorded during the COVID lockdown in spring 2020, titled Irish Culinary History with Dorothy Cashman. So, when the next milestone review of Irish studies appears in future years, it is hoped that food will be considered an obvious lens through which to interrogate developments within Irish society, both at home and abroad. Gurramida Mahagi.